Okay, so unfortunately, they haven't fixed my issue yet with the screen capture program that I'm usually using. So I am doing another video here using WebEx, which unfortunately the quality of the video is not as great. So bear with me as they get that figured out. But I wanted to go ahead and do the weekly announcements. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And that way then you can actually see where you need to navigate through this week. So I'm going to start off first with lecture. So again, if you go to the syllabus, and again, hopefully you all have this like printed out already, but you can always go back and click on the lecture schedule to kind of see where you're at. We're at week 4 here, so you can see we're going to finish up tissue this week. So you're going to finish up histology, and hopefully the lecture is finally kind of helping you out with the lab. I know that we've been a little bit ahead in the lab, and that makes it a little challenging, but we're going to get caught up here, and that way then when we get to the skeletal system, it'll be kind of nice because the lecture and lab will go side by side. So again, we're just going to finish up tissue, and then that is the end of the material for exam 1. So you'll have again the week to kind of review as well. So I'm not going to give the exam, and partially because we have the lab practical as well. So the exam won't be until Friday. Again, it's taken online through Respondus Lockdown Browser and Monitor. And that's going to be, the exam will open at 4 p.m. on Friday, and then it will close on 11:59 p.m. Saturday. So that way then it gives you the time to take the exam, hopefully any time in between that. Now, if for some reason you have some extreme circumstances and you can't take the exam during those time frames, then please reach out to me, and then we'll work something else out. Like maybe you are working and you have other things scheduled all in between. But hopefully this gives most of you a wide enough kind of time frame that you can find some time in there to take the exam. Oh, and make sure that you take the quiz on tissues as well. So hopefully that will take that before the exam. So that way then you kind of can see where you're at. I would say take that earlier in the week, as soon as you finish up tissues, do a little studying on tissues, and then take that lecture quiz to see where am I prior to the exam and how am I doing. And then I'll talk a little bit about preparation for the exam in just a minute. I want to go ahead and get into the lab. So let's talk about what you're doing for lab this week. So for lab, you are going to be finishing up, well, you should hopefully did skin, but if you haven't already finished up the skin lab, please go ahead and do that. So let me go to practical 1 here. And so here's the skin lab. So again, I know some of you probably were just getting to that this weekend, but please go through the skin lab. You can see, again, I've got the PowerPoint slides. There's labeled images here, and you can review the skin models here. And then you can also go through, Dr. Morley has a lab video that I posted instead of my video this time, just because it was a good brief video on histology. I thought she did a pretty good job, so I went ahead and posted that one. And then you can go ahead and take the skin histology and models practice quiz to see where you're at. And then of course there's the extra activities here. So I know I kind of went over that last week, but I just wanted to remind you that that's where all that was. So then obviously we have the lab practical this Wednesday. So, and that lab practical, actually I have it opening on Wednesday at 4 p.m. and then it closes on Thursday at 11:59 p.m. And again, that is just to account for some of you worked on Wednesday nights and can't take the exam. So that gives hopefully you some time to take the quiz on Thursday as well. I will warn you that your practical may be slightly different than your friend's practical, so that helps to avoid kind of you guys sharing and talking about the questions, because we do have a large bank of questions, and then for each person that takes the practical, it just kind of, randomly picks questions from each section. So it'll take like, maybe 10 from the skin section here, and out of, the 30 we have. So each person's lab practical will be a little bit different, and hopefully that helps to kind of avoid cheating, because if you've worked really hard to study for your lab practical, it wouldn't be fair if someone else was able to cheat. So hopefully that kind of takes care of that issue. And then just as a review, let me go back here. For practical 1, again, it's going to cover the microscopy lab. It's going to cover, which again is mainly like identifying the parts of the microscope and what they do. And then the cell division mitosis lab, all the histology labs, and then the skin lab. And so, and then for, oops, it brought me back to the skin lab. For the lab practical, I do have a couple of resources for you here. So I've tried to do review sessions. Again, I've taught this 201 online for more semesters than I can count. And almost every semester I have tried to do a review session, and usually like either 1 or 2 students attends, or sometimes even no one attends. So last semester, when no one attended, I decided I'm just going to go ahead and do a review session like I would do a review session normally. And I recorded it. So I basically, in this review session, I take about an hour, and I put up slides just like if I had you in person in a review session. And then I go through, what's this part of the slide? What's this part of the slide? And so you can watch that, and it's a good review of pretty much kind of all of the slides, especially mostly mitosis through the skin, and those really difficult slides that are difficult to look at. So you can watch that video. I'm just going to click on it here and show you again. It's just a YouTube video, and I believe it's about an hour. And again, it will walk you through kind of all the, histology. Sorry, because it's YouTube. It has, of course, commercials in the very beginning. Oops. And so I'm just going to go ahead and skip that. And so now you can just see here. Oh, you may have to review. I don't know why, for whatever reason, when I copied that link, I must have had reviewed the video, and it's at the very end. So you're gonna have to just rewind the video to the beginning, just pull that red bar back. And then, yeah, so anyway, you can go through and see, it's going to walk you through all of that lovely histology stuff that's so tough to get through. And then I do have the skin at the very end. So then I walk you through some of those skin slides and the models as well. So hopefully that will really help you in terms of kind of just giving you a good review. And then after you've done that, then you can actually take the online practice practical. Okay. Now, please keep in mind that with this practice practical, I'm not grading that practical, which means that, it may mark answers that I would go back and give you the points for as incorrect. So, for example, you may have put the lamellar corpuscle instead of Pacinian corpuscle, but we only put Pacinian corpuscle in there as an answer. So obviously you can either call it the Pacinian corpuscle, which is kind of the old name for the corpuscle. It's named after the scientists that discovered it. I still use Pacinian corpuscle, but the kind of new naming for it is lamellar corpuscle, which may make more sense to you as a student because it has that corpuscle has those kind of rings, those layers, like the lamellae that you see in the bone tissue. So maybe lamellar corpuscle makes more sense to you. And so again, I will accept either. Or maybe you capitalized Pacinian corpuscle, or maybe you had it as a lowercase instead of capitalized. And so those are things that I would still accept. So again, those are just some examples of how, or maybe you had one letter where you would, miss the letter or something in there and it counted it wrong. I would give you those points back. Okay. So please keep in mind that normally when we grade the practicals in terms of spelling does count, because there are times when it really makes a difference. So for example, if you were talking about the bones of the lower leg, the tibia and the fibula, let's say that you put tibula, right? And all you did was change one letter. So you changed, again, the F to a T. But I don't know which one you meant. I don't know if you meant tibia or fibula, even though there was only one letter that was off, right? So be careful with things like that, because that's one case where even being off one letter, I don't know which one you meant for the correct answer. But and that's just an example from bones because it's an easy example. But again, kind of be careful with that in terms of spelling. And then obviously, again, I know that these are a lot of new terms and it's a lot of new spelling for you. So please keep in mind that for the most part, if you miss one, if you're one letter off, usually we don't take off from it. If you're like, 2 to 3 letters off, but I can still tell it's what you meant, then we usually give you half credit for it. Okay. And then if it's just, farther than that, if you're farther than that off in spelling, then usually, again, we can't give you the credit for it because it's just not close enough. Okay. So keep in mind that that's how the practical grading will work. Again, when you take the practical, please don't email me freaking out about your score, because it will be kind of scary when you look at your score. Remember, that's because I have to hand grade it. So try not to look at that score. Try to ignore that score until I'm able to hand grade the practical, because I'm going to give you points back. There are practicals where like I've given 20, 25 points back onto the score when I hand grade it, because again, maybe you capitalize the answer and we put the lowercase in there and the answer is still correct, either with either way that you do it. So keep that in mind when you guys are actually taking the practical. Let me see. I think that was it for that, other than for the lab practical on Wednesday, you are going to have to take it and respond to this lockdown browser and monitor. So it's going to ask you for your ID to do an ID check. Please hold your ID up. The reason that we need your ID is we have to verify that it's you taking the exam, because we don't have you in class. I am required to check those ID checks. So please make sure that you have some type of ID that shows your name, the name that you have, again, that you're registered under, and a photo ID. Ideally, the best photo ID is if you have your MCC ID. So that's the ideal. But if for some reason you don't have that, a driver's license with your name as it shows up in our system will work as well. The second part is, again, I am required to go through and review these videos. They're the way in which we ensure that you're not cheating, right? So our lab practicals are closed book, closed note. And so I just need to be able to see that. So I'm gonna stop my screen share for a minute, and I'm gonna show you what the environmental check looks like. So please take the time to do a good environmental check, because, and this is why, if you're like me and you're taking the test and you're thinking about something, you're going to go like this. You're going to stare off behind you. Okay. But I don't know that you don't have notes or you're not reading something on your wall. And believe it or not, someone has done this. I actually caught them because they didn't know that it continued to record after they did the environmental check. And so before they started the exam, they did their environmental check. And then after that, they started sticking up all these notes on the wall, and I could see them doing it. And so unfortunately, that was a bummer. And because mainly we as instructors, we do not want to have to address cheating. It's a hassle for you, it's a hassle for us. So please just don't do it. Don't cheat. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. What you're going to do for your environmental check is you are going to very slowly, and this isn't going to work because I have a background, but you're going to kind of give me, you can pretend if I have a background here, you're going to kind of slowly like turn this to show me what's behind you. And then you're going to show me kind of what's, well, you can't see because I've got my background check up, but you're going to show me what's in front of you. So that way, then if you're staring off, spacing out in front of you, I know that there's nothing on that wall or if there's a room behind you or whatnot. And then you're going to want to like take your computer and you're going to want to like turn it down. So well, that won't work again for me because unfortunately my background, but you can point it down and show me your desk, okay? Or show me your bed or whatever you're taking your exam on so that I can see that you don't have any notes or anything around you. The better your environment check is, the easier it is for me to say, okay, that person was not cheating, you know, even if you're spacing out or, you know, you're looking down and trying to think, it just makes it so much easier. It also brings me to the fact that it does record audio as well. And so try to remind, you know, your spouses or families that you are taking an exam and not to, you know, it's distracting to talk to you anyway, but try not to talk to you because again, sometimes that if I can't hear everything, then I have to question whether or not that was cheating. But usually the audio is pretty good. If for some reason you have an interruption, I have kids, you may have kids as well, or a spouse or something like that, that interrupts you, just say, oh, excuse me for a moment, and just verbalize to me because I can hear it. So just say, excuse me for a moment. My child is, you know, needs me for a minute in the bathroom. And this happened to another student on the exam and her child had an accident. And so she needed to address it, obviously. And I could hear the kid in the background. So please, it's okay if that happens. I understand that you all have lives outside of this class. So just verbalize to me, just say, hey, I need to go really quickly, take care of my kid. I will be right back. So just verbalize those things to me again in the actual recording. I think that was it in terms of the things that you need to do for the actual exam. The exam again won't be until Friday. And if you have any questions on kind of how to study for the exam. I know that's usually kind of the biggest challenge once you get through the practical is what am I going to do to study for this exam? Please remember that I've got those review objectives for you to go through. So hopefully that can help you focus on things also, or kind of know what to focus on for each chapter. And then also going through the old lecture quizzes will help you as well in terms of just giving you an idea of, oh yeah, that's how she typically asks questions. So again, even if that exact question isn't on the exam, that concept will be for sure. Because again, if it was a point that we again made it to the lecture, was big enough to make it to the lecture quizzes, then that's definitely a topic that's going to be on the exam in some form. Okay. So again, let me know if you have questions, concerns, or if you need to set up a meeting with me. I'm happy to set up virtual meetings with you, Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, whatever you need. So please reach out to me. I'm here for you. I want to help you. And then if for some reason you take the lab practical or the exam and this week you're like, whoa, I didn't do quite as well as I wanted to do, please reach out to me early. The earlier, the better. And that way, then I can help and we can talk about how you're studying. Sometimes it's very simple in terms of just tweaking things on how you study. And I know I've been able to successfully help students in the past with that. So I think that's it for this week. I know it's a busy week. Hang in there with me. Email me if you have questions, concerns, and good luck studying.